Welcome to the Big Woods Bucks podcast. I'm your host, Hal Blood. Sitting here with my co-host, Good Lee Shands.
Good morning, everybody.
Yep. Another nice summer day here. Late spring, early summer. And today we're going to talk about questions you have. We've had some people send in some questions because our podcast is really about teaching hunters, teaching you what you want to know. A lot of times we talk about a lot of things that maybe don't interest everybody, but we really are interested in what you want us to talk about and the topics. And so we do pay attention to it. So if you send in questions, comments, or whatever, you can comment on YouTube or Facebook or whatever. But if you've got any questions, send those questions to Scott at Big Woods Bucks, and he'll get them to us when we do the next series of podcasts. But so anyways, your input's valuable to us, and we appreciate you tuning in, and we'll try to do the best we can to keep things interesting. So anyways, what do you want to talk about first? Packs?
Yeah, let's do the pack.
All right. We've had a couple of people ask about pack stuff and what we carry, because hunting in the big woods, unless you're tree stand hunting, and a lot of people stand hunt in the big woods, but a lot of people are getting the interest in tracking and, obviously still hunting if there's no snow. But the difference is we're probably traveling a lot more miles than you would hunting anywhere else. And whatever you take with you, you've got it for the day, right? You don't want to carry extra stuff. And I have a motto. I actually got it it's an old construction worker motto. A buddy of mine was Bruce. Bruce, he was an iron worker, and they'd carry the rebar, two guys on their shoulders. And they was young bucks, and they were talking about, how many pieces of rod they could carry, and the foreman come by one day and he goes, put some of that down. He goes, go light, go often. So moral of the story, I think, was if you're trying to carry heavy stuff, you're not going to get as much, you're going to wear out quicker, right?
The fatigue factor.
Yeah. And we've both seen it, guiding people that, you try to tell them what to wear and what to bring, but some people have it in their mind they just have to have extra stuff with them. I think they're programmed that way. And so we'll try to help you with that a little bit, going light. Do you carry the new... What's that?
Light is right.
Light is right, yeah. Yeah, you don't need a lot of stuff. And, I've had people carry, like they want to carry a gallon of water with them. Some of the guys got one of them Camelback packs on their, Camelback water thing. And in some areas, you probably need to do that. Like, remember when we hunted in Ontario?
Yeah.
We wouldn't drink that water out there.
No.
It's all beaver water and stuff. But if you're hunting up here in Maine particular, but even, through the mountains and higher elevations in Vermont, in Mass, New Hampshire, even the Adirondacks, when you're up in the mountains, that water is all good to drink. It's all spring water leaking out of the mountains, and it's fine to drink. So I don't carry water. I carry a baggie in my pocket and dip into the little spring seeps and stuff. And the higher up you get it, the better it is. But if it's anything running out of the side of a ridge or a mountain, if it's a place that it always runs, you'll know it because there'll be gravel or crushed shale in the bottom of it, and it's there, and that's actually the filter. So if you've got crushed shale and gravel, the water's running down through, and it doesn't have to be a lot, it can be just a little trickle. It's good water to drink. Here's a few words from our sponsors. They're all top-notch people. We're glad to have them aboard. Make sure you support them. That's what keeps us going. Being the low-tech guy I am, there's one thing I've learned to embrace with technology, and it's my Onyx. I used to carry maps and GPS when it finally came out and stuff, but the Onyx has eliminated that because I've got my GPS in my phone now with my Onyx app. I can mark everything in that. It's helpful that I can show other people by putting a pin in if I want to send somebody to a place. Being a guide, that's important, I can give them the pin, put it in there, I text it to them, whatever. So if you want to get your Onyx, get your Big Woods Bucks code, BWB, and get you 20% off, but I highly recommend it. Give you a little update, Skinner Sights. We all know they're the best site going, but it's a great company because Andy and the crew there are innovative, and they're always thinking up either new models to make a site for, improve the sites, making mounts for scopes, and now they've come on with their own line of scopes and red dots. Whatever Andy does in the company, it's top-notch, first quality, and they stand behind everything, and we're glad to have them as a partner, and we hope you'll try their sites, and you can trust your life with those, and they're going to get you the game. So get your Skinner Sights, and you can trust me that you're going to be glad you did. Just wanted to talk a little bit about minus 33 in the wool they have, which I believe is best wool going, whether it's base layers or your socks or whatever you're wearing. You got to have wool. I've been stressing that for people for years, to wear your wool, whether it's the outerwear or even your base layers and socks. I've been to the tour of the plant, see how they make their socks, and it's quality, the fit is right, and they're going to be long lasting. I've got socks I've had now for several years, and they look like I'll have them for several years more before they even think about wearing out. So I trust my life to wool, and you can too. Minus 33. All right, back to the podcast. That will probably save you what? Like a 16-ounce bottle, that's a pound.
Yeah.
2 pounds. Yeah.
I'm a little bit different, but over the years, what's worked for me, and it's the heaviest part of my pack, but I actually take those instead of a 16-ounce bottle of water, because you never drink that whole thing at one time. So I don't, like my clients, sometimes I've talked them into doing the same thing. If they drink half their water, then I can hear it sloshing around afterwards.
Yeah.
So what I do is I like those little 8-ounce juice ones, and I fill one up with water, and then the other one I have with grape juice or apple juice. And the reason why I do that is I make sure that I'm hydrated in the morning. I drink a bunch of water before I go in. But when I have my lunch or whatever, I usually drink one of those 8-ounce ones with my lunch. But then later in the afternoon sometimes, and I don't even always do it, but sometimes later in the afternoon, if I'm running out of gas a little bit, for me, if I drink one of those little 8-ounce grape juice or apple juice, it hydrates me, but it also gives me like a little quick shot of energy. And I've done that for years. I do a little 8-ounce bottle of water and an 8-ounce bottle of juice, and that's the heaviest part of my pack, though.
Yeah, but 2 little 8-ounce ones, that's still only a pound.
Right.
And yeah, and everybody, what I've learned from guiding over the years is everybody's body runs different. Some people can go all day with hardly anything to drink. Other people, they require a lot of water, and I don't know why that is. Just people's bodies run differently. I think part of the reason is some people sweat more than others. That's why I try to teach people to control themselves from sweating by dressing light. Being in shape is the most important thing,
Right.
but dressing lighter than you would, because when you're sweating, you're losing the water out of your body. Then you're going to have to drink more, and then when you drink more, you'll end up sweating more because you put it back in. So that's almost like a vicious cycle, I think.
The other thing is I think it depends on, because, Big Woods, it's different. Like up here, you're in the mountains. In the Jackman area, you're in the mountains.
Right.
There's all kinds of good fresh drinking water up here. But some of the other places where guys track, like I remember over in the Cocajo area where I used to track my deer over there, it's more lowland and there's,
Yeah.
there's some mountains there, but they're usually like lone mountains. It ain't like you're in a range or anything. There's not as much fresh water over there as there is over here. And that might be, and I'm not saying there isn't any, but it isn't like being up here.
Yeah, here you can, about, every 15, 20 minutes, you're probably finding another thing to drink out of if you want in the mountains. But yeah, I get it. But, even if you were, it took you an hour every couple hours, you don't need to drink constantly, but every couple hours you should be able to find something about anywhere, except in them low bogs and stuff like that. And then a lot of people now, and I have one, but I don't carry it much. I don't carry it here, but it's those little filter straws,
Yeah.
or some people have them where you filter it into a different bag or something. And if you're that worried about it, you're better off to carry one of them, and that doesn't weigh hardly anything, instead of trying to carry a gallon of water with you.
The other thing that you mentioned that's really important too is not overdressing. That, because then you're really defeating your purpose. You wanna have your clothing level at the point where you're comfortable and not sweating. If you're overdressed, you're gonna need more water, right? If you're sweating, that's a big part
You
of it.
get out of the truck in the morning. You've been in the heater.
You want to be a
Get
little
to
cold.
where you're going, and it's all nice and cozy in the truck. And you get outside and you get that chill down your neck, and you pull your collar up and you go, geez, I better put another shirt on or a sweater or something. Don't do it.
Nope.
Be cold when you start.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's if you're moving around, but so. Hi, Hal here, host of the Big Woods Bucks podcast. We're excited to announce our partnership with the most respected and recognized land company in the Northeast, Christmas and Associates Land Company. Owners Dan and Mark Christmas are two upstate New York natives with deep roots in the Adirondacks and Tug Hill Plateau, as well as two of the most passionate big woods hunters you'll meet. Whether it's newly constructed camp surrounded by state wilderness or family getaway, their team of experienced land guides are the best at matching folks with the perfect land track at an affordable price. They even provide financing. Christmas Land Guides will provide full land tours using ATVs, snowmobiles, and even snowshoes so that you can scout every acre. Christmas Land and Camp staff also help you construct the camp you've always dreamed of using our in-the-house master builders. For over 35 years, no one in New York State has provided more big buck properties and family hunting camps to hundreds of folks who love the woods than Christmas and Associates Land Company. Dan and Mark and the whole company remain dedicated to wise land conservation and treating everyone they meet like family. Always available 7 days per week unless there's fresh tracking snow. Call 800-229-7843 or visit Land and Camps on Facebook or go to landandcamps.com. I started when we come out with that Nuna pack. That's what I carry now, because my other one is fine, but there was always plenty of room for something else in it. I take that one if I'm going to put a few trail cameras. Like usually early, I might throw 3 trail cameras in the other one and go put them in. But for my day to day now, I love that Nuna pack because it fits better up under my jacket there. I pull my jacket over it to shed the water, but the only thing I carry is, I do carry a space blanket. There's things that are in there all the time. Is a space blanket. I got a little nylon cord. I call it my rifle sling. If I got a drag, I'll use that. I carry a black nylon strap I've had for at least 25 years. Is my dragon strap, because it's about 10 feet long and I can make my drag stick thing out of it. And then I carry another little 1/4-inch cord, nylon cord. I probably have 10 feet of that, but that doesn't weigh anything and it doesn't take up any space. And that's about it in my main pack. And I put my lunch in there. And I carry my inReach. My wife kind of insisted that she'd like me to carry my inReach when I got a little older. So, and it's a handy tool. I think about it more if you get out to your truck and it doesn't start, or you get stuck somewhere and you're by yourself. At least you can call for some help if you need to, you know. But I carry that. And then in my flat pocket, I carry a fire starter thing, and I put it all in. Everything I put in there is in Ziplocs. I mean, they're pretty waterproof. Our liners in there, but if you happen to fall in or whatever, it's been raining for days. But I keep it all in there. Oh, the other thing I do carry on the snowy, if it's cold and rainy or snowy or something, I carry an extra pair of gloves in a Ziploc in my pack. And then
I do that same thing. I don't know if you do, but like if you're tracking in wet snow, I like to start out and I wear my one pair of gloves till about noontime. It's pretty nice sometime to put on that new warm set of gloves at noontime to finish your day.
I try to go a little longer because if you change them at noon, I found like if it's still snowy, they're going to be cold and wet again by the walk out. So if I can squeak it out till about 2 and then put them on, and then I can hunt a little bit and then work my way out, and they're still pretty dry. Yeah, it's nice having dry gloves on for the walk out.
Yeah, I say noontime. I try to make it at least halfway through the day, but like you said, make it. And when it starts getting uncomfortable, I think to myself, "Oh, I'm glad I got those nice warm gloves in there," and I'll swap them out.
Some people carry a dry pair of socks in their pack. I don't do that because if you wear them with wool socks, if you've got your boot full and you can wring them out and dump your boots out, and they're still going to be warm. It won't be as comfortable, but a pair of socks would, might be handy.
One thing that I think is worth mentioning, because you mentioned the fire starter, I found this out. I like those little Bic lighters, and I carry that to start my fire. But sometimes when it's really cold or something will happen, they get wet or something. I got it when I was a kid, it's one of those little fireproof, not fireproof, but a waterproof match set. Yeah. Because sometimes if a Bic lighter it's the easiest way to start a fire. But if they don't work, if you got those waterproof matches, that's a good backup too. So I carry both a little Bic lighter and then just a little tiny thing with half a dozen waterproof matches in it.
I carry 3 things now for fire starters because one time in Ontario, me and Chris, we were in one of them pouring rains, and it was cold rain. I said, let's get a fire going to toast a sandwich or something. And I got the Bic lighter out, and I struck it, and it didn't go, and I struck it again. And with wet hands, it'll wet that flint, and it won't go. Yep. And the other thing, it won't go if it's real cold. You can put it in your pocket and warm it up for a few minutes, and it'll go. So, and then I had a waterproof match case, but it didn't have the strike anywhere matches, and I don't know if it had mattered because it's got that rough thing on it to do it. But I had a piece of that you strike on in there with it. So I got it out, and I got that striker thing out there, and I lit a match, and everything was so wet anyways. Couldn't get it going. Struck another match, and about the third match, that thing was soaking wet, and I couldn't get a fire going. So from then on, I started carrying. I actually found these military waterproof matches, and they're in a plastic thing that's must be waterproof because it slides down. It's got a good seal, but they're waterproof matches and windproof, and the head on them is that long. They'll burn about 30 seconds with a big flashy flame, and they work great. And you probably can get them at any, like a military surplus store. I think I bought them from that Sportsman's Guide there years ago, but there was like 4 bottles. It's 50 in a bottle, and they were like 4 bottles for like $18 or something. And then before that, I got those, when I had that trouble, I bought one of those like torch lighters that doesn't have a flint. You just hit it and it It's like electric thing, and you can wind her up there, so it's like a propane torch kind of. So now I carry 3 things. But if you got a propane one, what I learned about that one was, for some reason, when it sits over the year, you put your stuff away, come next fall, that butane it evaporates or something. You got to fill it with butane every year before you go.
I noticed, I can't remember when it was, but every once in a while when I'm checking on Facebook, checking my Throwback Thursday or checking something Brandon posted or you posted, every once in a while it'll say you've got 5 comments waiting on an answer or whatever. And a short time ago, there was a guy in there that said, I've been tracking deer my whole life. I've never started a fire, basically just kind of like BS. You don't need to worry about starting a fire. And I was thinking to myself that you should still carry it for an emergency, but also just like if people have seen us starting a fire and they wonder like, I've never started a fire in the woods when I'm hunting. The 2 times that I almost never start a fire in the woods, but I remember the first year we went to Ontario. I've hunted in some cold weather in Maine, but the first year we went to Ontario, we were hunting, it was 20 below zero. And if you even stop just for like a half an hour to eat your lunch, if it's 20 below zero when you're hunting, it's pretty nice to start a fire when you're eating your sandwich. And then the other thing is, even in Maine, if it's in muzzleloader season in December again and it's colder, but if you've been out and if you've gotten wet and whatnot, if I'm going to start a fire in Maine, it's usually in December for muzzleloader season. But again, if you don't want to start a fire, don't. But sometimes it's pretty nice to have a little fire in the middle of the day when you take.
Yeah.
The other one too is, I was thinking about it afterwards, was when you your little short video you did when you corded up and packed out your deer out in the Adirondacks. It was pretty nice. You had your fire going there because, again, if you're cold and your hands are wet and you're quartering and getting that deer all cut up, you'd warm your hands up for a little bit and go back to it. That's another good reason to start a fire.
And the point is it's one of them things that can save your life, and it doesn't weigh anything.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's not taking. People are more concerned about having things in there that weigh a lot, but the important things really don't weigh much.
Right.
So I have that. 3 ways to start a fire. I carry a little peelless whistle because I've never been able to whistle at all. Yep. And I started carrying that when I first started guiding, and it doesn't rattle. There's no pee in it, so I carry it. I don't know when the last time I might have pulled it out and used it, but it's in there and doesn't weigh anything. It doesn't take up any space. It's about that big. And then I carry a few tie wraps for I call them toe tags. That's what they are on bear, but for your tag, I carry a few tie wraps, and you could use them for other things. And again, they're down in the bottom. They don't take up any space or weigh anything. And then I carry a little bit of toilet paper and a little pack of wipies in case you got to do your business in the woods.
And again, it don't weigh nothing.
Doesn't weigh anything.
Put them in a Ziploc baggie.
That all fits in my I call it my map pocket in the back, what's a flat pocket. All of that stuff goes in there, and I carry a spare compass. The one I put in there is like the mapping compass to use with a map. And then I carry my I call it my directional compass, a little round one. It's got the degrees on it, but you can't turn the bezel in it. And that's my compass I carry in my pocket in case I need to check direction or something. And I used to carry a camera, but now we're in the technological world, so now our phone is our camera. It's our GPS.
Yeah, because of OnX.
Yeah, I just carry that in my top pocket. So, and that's all I carry. It's in my lunch, And usually in the bottom of my pack, I'll have maybe a granola bar in there and them chocolate bars. I like them Hershey's for the almonds. Dark chocolate now. They got them with dark chocolate almonds. That's my go-to candy bar now.
There you go. Yeah, I distribute my weight a little bit too. Like I don't carry even everything in my pack because I use a pin-on compass, but then I've got my silver compass, my flat one. I keep that in my pack, but I keep my phone in one pocket, And then I still carry it's the most simple, smallest, lightest GPS they have. But so I got a GPS in one pocket and my phone in another. I don't carry my extra shells. I don't carry those in my pack. I've got like a little leather thing so they don't rattle, and I keep that in one pocket. I kind of try to disperse my weight out a little bit, and for me, it's not as big a deal anyway. I've always, weight's not a super issue for me, but going back to what we started before, I don't carry anything that isn't essential. I found out pretty quick. If it's been in there for a few years and I ain't used it, I don't need it.
Yeah. I forgot that too. You talked about your bullets. I just carry and people have asked me that too, how many extra bullets. I just carry, I have my clip and it holds 4, and then I carry an extra loose shell. So when I load my gun, I put one in the chamber in my clip and I got 5, and then I take an extra clip and I put it in good tip here. I put it in one of them snack Ziplocs, and I spray the rem oil in there and then zip it and leave it the season. I learned the hard way. I had one in there all season, and even though it was in a Ziploc, I think it was condensation. It got pretty rusty when I took it out the end of the season. It was kind of rusty, so anywhere there was any bare metal on it was rust. Yep. So now I just spray some rem oil in there and zip it up, and it stays in that. That stays in my flat pocket too.
Another good little tip for you, though, is at the end of the season, like even if you keep that clip loaded for the whole season, don't just leave your clips loaded all the time, because those springs, eventually they'll get so they're not as good. So I always unload and I don't carry a clip as much as you, because sometimes the guns I'm using don't have a clip. Other people call them a magazine. They're like, why do you guys call them clips? It's a main thing, but it's a magazine.
Yeah.
But I end up... I always make sure if I've got a magazine that's got bullets in it, after the season I shuck them out of there just so I'm not compressing that spring all the time.
I empty them all out and put them in the drawer and wait till next season.
A little bit off topic, but we don't want to miss those things. It might save somebody someday having a weak spring.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, so that's it, probably in a nutshell. And I know people got other ideas about what they want to carry, and it's up to anybody what they want to carry. But the thing is the lighter you go, the more strength you're going to have to get you through the day. You won't be weighted down, because I've lugged, just goofing around, going in and, even like packing out moose antlers or something, even if it ain't sometimes you could get 50 pounds on there, but you got a couple moose antlers and you might have 30 pounds on there. Just carrying that a couple miles is quite a bit,
I found too that I never carried a backpack. I still have guys that they want to carry a backpack, and that's fine if you'd rather have that. But one reason why, even before Big Woods and before I knew you, I always carried a fanny pack.
Yeah.
Because a fanny pack, it doesn't constrict me at all. I still think a backpack with them straps and stuff on, I just don't feel as free. And if I got to whip around on a buck or do whatever, it's less constricting. I just like
most of them have like a padded strap, and you can't, you know what I mean, to get
just don't feel as free.
Inch to get your gun in your shoulder, and it's not really comfortable. I had bought way back when I first started coming up. And I bought a couple of those, they were like a polar fleece. I think I got them at Cabela's, and they were just a little knapsack thing. And I tried that one year, and what I found was ducking down under stuff, I would always, you forget about there. Your body naturally knows how much you have to duck to go under something. But if that pack's on there, you forget about it, and you'd be grabbing stuff on that pack, and snapping sticks and stuff. So I tried it one year and I was done with it, and then went to the belt pack and used that ever since. So, but anyways, that's kind of it in a nutshell. Go light, go often, and we've got some other videos on YouTube of some of the guys doing a pack dump what they carry. So go ahead and watch them, and you'll probably see nobody carries very much, but we all might have a few different ideas about what we're going to carry. But those few things we talked about, you can stay overnight and, get your fire going. And some people worry about staying overnight, and it's not going to be comfortable probably, but if you got your fire starters, you're going to be all right. You can keep warm and get out the next day and you'll be all set. All right. That's one question there. Let me see here what we got for questions. I have to put my spectacles on here. All right. Stan Muzzy asks, Hal's always making fires while hunting. Wouldn't the deer smell that? Is it that the deer aren't bothered by the smell? I do special soap in the shower, scent lock, clothes, sprays. Should I just be smoking my clothes? All right, Stan, good question. Smoking up his clothes. You'd be better off, Stan, to just smoke up your clothes and use all that other stuff. It'd be easier. And I would answer that in a way that I don't believe that that smoke smell bothers deer, because I'm sure they smell it at times in the woods. Like even them years when the big fires are in Canada, we can actually smell the smoke in the air, and it's hundreds of miles from us. So deer smell smoke, and I don't think it bothers them a bit. So I know when we used to go in New Brunswick, the big thing in New Brunswick was a T-boil, and the guides would always have a fire going if you wanted to show up for the T-boil for lunch. And them guys would talk about have fires, and they'd be sitting there, and a deer would walk right up to them, looking around, let's see what's going on. So no, I don't believe that smoke smells up. And the other thing about the clothing end of it, for one thing, the scent stuff, the scent eliminators, all of that stuff, you can forget about it, because it isn't going to do you any good. I know you've been marketed in to believe all that stuff, but it's not going to do you any good. If you want to use a little, doe pee or buck tarsal gland, and you think it's going to help you, go ahead and use that. But the important thing is I've been trying to stress, we've had a whole thing on wool, and I got another one coming out on wool, the properties of wool. If you wear wool, which is critical to your comfort, tracking and hunting in the big woods, one of the properties is that it's naturally odor-free. You've probably had deer walk right up to you or been around you, right, Lee?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had deer almost on top of me, look at me, turn, walk away. And I'm not saying we're all totally scent-free, because I think it comes out our mouth and off our hands and our face, but wool doesn't hold the odors. So if you do sit around a fire and you get that smell on you, it's not going to last long. Not that, again, I don't think it matters, but it naturally airs out, I guess it's what I would say. So you don't need to worry about your scent as much. If you're right downwind, if they're downwind from you, yeah, I'd say they're going to smell you. But they're going to, whether you got scent eliminators or anything else on you. The people that wear the artificial material clothing, synthetics, I guess you'd call materials, all of those materials attract and hold odors. That's why probably the people that invented that synthetic clothing, they invented the scent stuff too, because they wanted to say some scent stuff to overcome it. But that's just my feeling on it. So Stan, you're better off to wear your woolies and save your money on the scent stuff. Make a fire in the woods when you want, and sharpen your hunting skills. That's how you get the deer.
Yep. You're never going to eliminate all of it anyway. We have people ask us all the time, about they're worried about the wind. If you're a deer tracker, you you really can't worry about it. If you did, you'd never hunt, right?
Yeah, you're moving through the woods anyways. It's not like the wind is probably more important. A lot of wind doesn't matter because the scent don't go anywhere. It's really the light thermal breezes that move your air around. But if you were sitting, it's going to be more of a problem than tracking or still hunting when you're moving about. So people put too much into that. They've been programmed to think about, about odors too much and being smelled by a deer. They're putting too much into it. You got to just worry about that when you get around a deer and you think you're close. Then you can start checking the wind and use your skills to try to figure out how you're gonna, maybe get that buck, maybe grunt him in a call or something. But then you might want to work around with whatever the way the wind's blowing. But quite frankly, up here it blows about 4 directions about every minute anyway, right?
Yeah, my camps that are just south of here. We were out fly fishing the other night on the pond, and you think you're going to get away from it by being on the north shore, the west shore, the east shore, and stuff. It's swirling up in the mountains. It swirls and it changes all the time. And again, I'm not saying obviously if you're downwind of a deer, they can smell you, but you can't worry about stuff that's out of your control because you'd never hunt.
Right.
You just got to hunt and hope that, like you said, when you get close, and again, if you think the deer's right in front of you and you feel your deer on your, the wind on your neck, you better try to creep around a different spot or whatever. But you can't worry about controlling it all day because it would drive you nuts.
No, because you may not even be near a deer. People, when you hunt in the big woods, the deer densities are lower. Your main job is to get close to a deer. So if you're worried about deer smelling you and you got to work around in the wind, you might spend the day not even getting near a deer. Get traveling, get near a deer, then worry about it. You'll be a lot better off. You'll have more chances that way. All right.
I think we covered that one pretty good.
I hope so.
Whether they agree with us or not, we covered it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think between us, we got a little bit of time in the woods, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah. A few years.
We're getting a little long in the tooth, especially me.
I'd agree with that as well.
I notice you're getting a little grayed up too. I was that way about when I was your age. So this is what you got to look forward to, the pure white, see?
If I'm still running around at 68 like you are, I'll be tickled to death.
Yeah. All right. Let's see if we can get to something else here. Steve Tukey. Steve's got a lot of questions. I better keep this right here. Hunting and teaching young girls how to get them into the sport of hunting and keep their enthusiasm. That's a good question, Steve. A lot of you guys out there have families, you're starting families, you got daughters and sons or whatever. Everybody always thinks that you got to get the boys into it, but we should get all the kids interested in it.
Yeah.
And I would say the main thing to keep the enthusiasm up is make it fun, wouldn't you?
Yep. And don't put too much pressure on them.
Yeah. And I was guilty of that with my son, because when I was taking him in between guiding, I used him pretty hard, almost like he was one of the clients, he'd be 10 years old, 11 years old, and I'd be ramming him through the woods all day long. And, he actually did keep up pretty good, I'd have to wait and stuff, but I was just, at that time, I was always on a mission to find a deer. I was trying to find a deer for him, and my method was always go find one, keep moving and find one or something. It actually bothered me when I got older, and I asked him when he got be an adult there, I said, when I used to take you through the woods like that, I said, I think I was taking the fun out of it for you. And he goes, well, he goes, sometimes it wasn't that much fun, but I learned a lot, you know? So, yeah, I mean, it didn't turn him away from the hunting, but when you get grandfather status, you do things a little different.
Well, you get a little wiser, and
Yeah.
I had 4 kids, so it was a little bit different learning curve for me because Stephen was just like me. All he ever wanted to do was be in the woods. So there was and it wouldn't matter if I ran through the woods, he'd have run to keep up with me.
Yeah,
There
that's
was
what Gary
no
did.
denying him. But my 2 older daughters, again, they were girls, but I didn't treat them any different. I took them hunting. My oldest daughter shot a bunch of birds in the fall the first year, and then she went deer hunting with me a couple times, and then the following spring she shot a turkey. That was back when you had to apply for a turkey permit, imagine.
Yeah.
So shot a turkey, but it really wasn't her thing. So, and then my middle daughter just never showed any interest in it. And I said, well, if you think you want to, I'll take you, but she didn't. But then Christine, my youngest daughter, the thing that surprised me was she had a pretty short attention span. Like if the whole family sat down to watch a movie or something, she couldn't sit still for, 10 minutes, and she likes to talk. She's a communicator. So I thought there's no way that she's gonna, but I'm telling you, it was so strange. I would bring her out in the woods and I'd still hunt with her some. She's never tracked with me, but her thing is she wants me to bring her into a place where there's a bunch of deer sign and she can sit on a stump. I don't care for tree stands because we're on the move all the time and I just can't put out that many tree stands. But I have little places in the woods where I've built ground blinds over the years, or where I know there's, near a signpost or whatever, where I know there's going to be deer traveling. She'll sit on a stump all day and be just as content, and she loves it. She ended up a couple of years ago, as far as I know, she's the first person in my family, well, legally anyway, back in the old days, some of my uncles and stuff, I'm sure they shot multiple deers, but 2 years ago, Christine shot a 150-pound buck out behind my house. She was all by herself and she shot that. And then less than a week later, she shot a 175-pound 8-point buck. And again, she's mostly a sitter and still hunter.
She shot 2 bucks?
Nope, she shot a 150-pound doe and then a 175-pound buck, about 5 days apart. And she loves to hunt. She's been with me the last couple. These guys are laughing too. I must have said something that I should.
You said she shot a 150-pound buck.
Oh, no. I'm glad you corrected me. No, she shot a 150-pound doe, and then about 5 days later, 175.
We got game wardens monitoring this show.
Oh, yeah. Well, and again, I think that was the first year down my way that became legal. They ended up in zone 17. If you get a doe permit, you can shoot a doe and still shoot a buck.
It must have been the same year. Ryland, he shot a doe on Youth Day, then he shot his buck tracking.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what I had to remember with her, though, is that I didn't want to walk her legs right off because she ain't like Stephen and I. I mean, she can't just get on a track and chase one all day. But again, she'll like to still hunt sometimes. But her biggest thing is if I can show her a signpost with a bunch of scrapes and rubs and stuff around it, she's content to sit there for the day. And I just make sure I keep her comfortable. The other thing is, I don't get a chance because I'm guiding so often. It usually happens during muzzleloader season. But lately, during Thanksgiving season, the 2 guys that I guide Thanksgiving week, they're regular clients. They like to do their own thing. Christine's been with me on Thanksgiving Day the last couple of bucks that I've shot. And I just I'll try to, if I'm not on a track chasing something, I just try to check on her around lunchtime. I might have lunch with her or whatever, and then...
Yeah. So I think you started her off bird hunting, though.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point is to keep them interested, young girls or even boys, but is to start them off with a little bit of action, and make it fun. And maybe in the beginning, I mean, every place, there isn't everybody that has a place to go like we do. We can go drive around with the kids and see birds from the road, and shoot some partridge from the road. Now, everybody doesn't live where they can do that. but that is a good way. And even things like take them rabbit hunting, and if you got dogs or know somebody that does, or even if you hire a guide with dogs and take them rabbit hunting, because it's going to be some action involved.
I think I remember back when you owned your first outfitting business there, we called it the girls rabbit hunt.
Right.
We used to take a bunch of girls out, and I think that would be if you got a teenage girl that shows any interest at all, if you can get them out there with 3 or 4 other girls, and you're always going to be able to find, some rabbits somewhere, and they get that camaraderie that goes along with it, and I think that's a wonderful way to start them.
Yeah, sure. But keep it fun, interesting, and they don't have to be just learning about hunting. They can see different things in the woods, birds, animals. You're going to see everything. It isn't just about taking them deer hunting and focusing just on the deer. And some are going to like it and some ain't. No matter what, all kids ain't going to, some will take it, some will leave it. And that's just the way it is. But at least if you put you put in a good effort to, like you said, Sarah there, she wasn't really interested in hunting. That's it. They don't all choose to do it.
One of the things that Christine's always been interested in photography as well. She's always taking pictures and shooting video, but I think people, sometimes they look at us as in big woods bucks, because we're buck hunters and shot a lot of bucks, but that's not all there is to it. In the course of your day, shooting a buck is a pretty small part of it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
One of the things that I taught Christine was to appreciate the whole process. It ain't about pulling the trigger. I mean, ultimately it is, but there's a whole process that goes along with that. And she likes to take pictures, or like if you find an old camp in the woods, falling in or whatever, and just neat stuff that you find in the woods, that's interesting to people. And I taught her from a young age to appreciate the whole process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just get them out there. Get the kids out there and
Make it fun.
make it fun. Let them sort it out whether they're going to take the interest or not. But I believe if you take them like that, most of them will probably have some level of interest in continuing on with it. The other important thing I'd add to that is when you get them a gun, get them one that is appropriate for their size. Don't give a young kid a 12 gauge or 3-inch magnums to start with. You know what I mean? Start them off with a 22 shooting a 410 or even a 20 gauge with light loads or something, and get them acclimated to it that way.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm going to tell you something else that probably helped Christine is a lot of times girls are steadier, and if you practice with them, they make good shots. And Christine, I think she really appreciated it because kids want to please their parents, right? And they want to please their grandparents and stuff. Well, we would go out in the summertime and practice, we'd be shooting 22s or shooting skeet or whatever. And she always was a good shot. So I always would tease Stephen, and my son-in-law Luke would shoot with us some. And I was like, I think Christine's a better shot than you are, because she wanted to hear that, right? But then when Stephen left for the Marine Corps, his hunting rifle that he had, I got him it was a Savage 99, but it was a carbine. It was a 30-30 with 170 grain core locks. And at the type of hunting that we did, I tell everybody, inside of 100 yards, if you shoot a deer with a 30-30 and 170 grain core lock, if you didn't get it, it's because you didn't hit it very good. It's enough. It ain't my favorite gun, and I'm not saying it's an .6, but Stephen shot a pile of deer with that, and it was nice and short for Christine, and it's old enough. Back in the old days, people were shorter, and stocks on those older guns. Yeah. This gun's from the 1920s, and the stock's probably an inch shorter than a newer gun. Well, it fit her good, and it didn't kick her much, the 33. It doesn't kick much, so it was the perfect gun for her, and she loves that gun. Stephen, when he left for the Marine Corps, I gave her the 30-30, and then when he got back from the Marine Corps, I gave him a 99 in .308. So, yeah, she loves that gun, and she's done good work with it.
Yeah. Get the kids out there. It's important. All right. Hunting in low deer density areas in Maine. How to be successful. Tips and tricks. All right. I'd say what you do is you get onto the website and order up my first book because it's all in there. Because we could do 6 podcasts on that and do a whole deal. But actually, some of that's going to come out in that Master Maine Guide class that I'm doing with. We've already got a couple out on there, but I don't know. There's a lot of tricks and tips, but hunting in the low densities is the first thing I would say is you've got to hunt where the deer are, right? Because there's a lot of woods in between the deer and the big woods, so you got to hunt where they are. And the only way I could figure out after guiding people for so long and then teaching my deer clinics for so long to figure out how to explain it to people is you got to take the big woods and break it down into manageable chunks, because I know it's daunting to people. They come up and they look around and it's just, there's woods everywhere, far as you can see. You get up on Owl's Head coming into Jackman there, you can't see to the end of it, So people don't really know where to start or how to figure that out. So the only thing I do is to make it easy for people is tell them if a deer has a certain area that like a buck, we're trying to hunt for bucks, obviously, but if he's got a certain size territory that he calls home, he's really only using, and you got to think of it at first, for a lot of you that's never hunted, like, in a lot of places, a deer might live in even bucks might live in a couple of square miles, a few square miles. When you get into the big woods, it's tens and tens of square miles. So, but they don't use the whole area, right? We know there's corridors throughout their territory that they use to travel through to get to where they're going. And I call it the 90-10 rule. They use probably 10% of their territory. So the tip is spend 90% of your time in the 10%. Hunt where the bucks are traveling in the areas they're using. Now, you're going to have to figure that out, and wherever you hunt, and that's going to have to be through scouting, is to figure out where the bucks are traveling.
One of the things that I've been telling people lately, people ask me all the time, well, where would you go to scout, or what would be a starting point? And it might be an oversimplification, but with Onyx now, if you get into an area with Onyx, you can bring up your little map on your screen and it'll show like maybe a couple of big clear cuts. And then there's something for it doesn't even have to be much of a stream or just, a little spring seep or whatever. But between those two big clear cuts, you got a couple hundred yard strip of woods in between them, and there's a little trickle of a brook there. That's a pretty good starting point if you want to find sign, because that's usually where the brown ash is. But it's also the travel corridor, because those big bucks, they're not walking through the middle of them clear cuts. They're in that little thick piece of woods between them. So that's, again, it's an oversimplification, but if I was starting out, bring up your Onyx, look for strips of woods in between the cuts or places that haven't been cut, and if there's a stream there, all the better, but that's a good starting point to go and look for your sign.
Do you use I use the hybrid on Onyx, where you got your aerial footage and it's overlaid by the contour lines?
Yeah.
Do you use that one? Yeah. So with that one, when you look down with an aerial thing, it looks flat, right? It's a satellite image. But when you put that, they call hybrid, and you overlay the terrain, it's like looking at a topo map in like live, because you're seeing the photo of the woods. That can help you find you can see if there's cuts and stuff, but it also will show you the water. And a lot of people, they don't understand all the water in the brown ash is where, they're traveling a lot in them corridors. It might not show up as blue. It might just show up as the contour lines when you see when they all point like they make like a point, all of them point one way. Well, that's a depression where there's going to be some kind of a spring seep or trickle or something. And you can follow those too and look for those any place with wet areas. But yeah, it's a wonderful tool for scouting. And I just did that. It's on YouTube, the scouting with topo maps. I like to use the map still. You remember when we went to Ontario, we bought all the maps for the areas because you can lay it out there. And I call it, you get the big picture, because on a phone screen or something, or a computer screen, sometimes I'll go on my laptop and look at the Onyx, because at least I can see, it's a bigger screen and I can see more area detailed. But I really like to still use maps in unfamiliar territory. I don't around here. I know everything, but I like to look at the maps, get the big overlay, and then decide where I'm going to go for the day, and then just scout that way. But it usually involves water, and I don't care where you're hunting. If you walk little streams, brooks, trickles, they're either going to be traveling along it on some of them, or they're going to be crossing it somewhere, especially the bigger brooks and streams. They have certain places they're crossing. So by walking a stream or even a river, you're going to find where they cross. And then that's a starting point to figure out where they're coming and going from there.
I'll give you a perfect example of that is down where I've killed my last couple of bucks and where my clients have killed a couple of nice ones. It isn't much of a stream. It's a little tiny stream that you can walk across without getting wet. But there's a series of beaver bogs on it. And again, if you just find those little streams, and then if you see there's little bogs or little ponds on it or whatever, invariably that's where those bucks are crossing. They'll pick a spot wherever that, like if there's a good sized beaver bog, they're either crossing up at the head of it or down at the bottom of it.
The dam or the upper end, yeah.
And if you are a sitter, that's where you'd want to set up, right? People call them pinch points or whatever you want to call, but it's not rocket science. Anybody that knows anything about the woods, if you follow what we just told you, find the tracks, find the rubs, that's where the deer are. We talked about this on a podcast, I don't know, a couple months ago. Right down at the bottom of that stream and those beaver bogs. Remember we talked about that big strip of open hardwoods that you could see forever. And client said something about, boy, this would be a nice place to set up a stand. And I'm like, no, it wouldn't, because that's not where the deer travel.
Right.
And again, you can find that stuff. It's, I think I mentioned the throwback that I'm going to do on you was this Thursday is we learn by trial and error. You can listen to the podcast, you can listen to us, you can read the books, but you got to go out there and do it. That's how you're really going to. And don't be afraid to fail, because failure is just part of the process for success.
Yeah. It's all theory till you get out there. It's like going to college, you're learning some theories until you go put it in practice. Yeah. So you get out there and you start doing it. And you'll learn more from the mistakes. The hard lessons, the painful ones are the best learners. You'll learn more.
I think, wasn't it Thomas Edison, one of those famous inventors, said something about, when he invented the light bulb or whatever it was, when somebody said something about failure, he said, no, I found 27 different ways not to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was the same as I think it was Colonel Sanders when he was trying to figure out his recipe there for fried chicken. It took him, lots and lots of tries, and he finally got it, but he didn't give up on it. It's the same way with deer hunting. You keep going and You'll get it figured out. It's hard to learn a lot of the finer points by watching us or watching a video or even reading in the books, because I learned this a long time ago too, teaching hunters, is everybody doesn't see the same thing through their eyes. People's eyes, what I relate from my eyes into my brain is not what the next guy the way he might see it. We're looking at the same thing, but we're interpreting it differently. So people have to go see it for themselves and then figure out how they interpret it and use it. It's crazy. You think you could, even like pointing stuff out to people. I've pointed out like 2 different tracks, and one's a day old and one's fresh, and they look at me and go, I don't see any difference in that, because their eyes, they're seeing different things the way they interpret it. It's okay, but that's why you have to go out and do a lot of the stuff on your own.
Having said that, though, I can remember one of the things that really intrigued me or amazed me, whatever you want to use for a word, but when I first met you, because we already had, even though we were a lot younger back then, we had enough experience, we'd come up with the same conclusions a lot of time. And I mean, remember 25 years ago, that whole moon phase thing was about how the moon phase, how that dictated the rut and everything. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. I've been in the woods enough to know that the peak of the rut ain't on October 31st. That just doesn't happen.
Not here, right?
Right.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense, but yeah, it's funny. Yeah, so I learned too that, because people ask me a lot of questions, and especially in the clinics, they come up with these different questions, and a lot of them was, and what it is, it's just stuff that they were told over the years. It might have been their father, grandfather, uncle, friend, whatever it was, about deer. And I think I was talking to you about it as something old man's tales, where their grandfather told them this stuff, and so it's true. And then they read it, so it's true. But
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday, about, a swamp buck and a mountain buck, and how the fact is that that buck's lived on the mountain and in the swamp. He's spent part of his life in both places.
Yep. All right. Well, this has been a good conversation, huh?
I think so.
Yep.
Covered some good stuff.
Got some questions answered. I hope it helps people. And but the important thing is just being out there and learning and picking different things up, and you'll find sometimes the things you thought might not be quite right. And most people, if you pay attention, you'll learn it on your own. You'll say, well, I always thought this, or someone told me this, but it's written out for you now and you can see it. And you'll find out that probably some of the things don't make sense, because that's all I did, and you did too, was you're trying to figure out what's going on, and you learn from what you're seeing and observing over the years. And when everything points to one direction, that's usually the direction you want to go, So anyways, we'll wrap her up for today, and so more of this stuff is on our, check out our YouTube channel, and we've got lots of videos on different topics. And you can go to the website, find out how to get anywhere else. If you want to get your woolies, we talked about wool a little bit. It's being odor-free. Just go, everything's available on the website. We got a new one, and we're trying to have sales for you guys to get some things at better prices and stuff. So check that out. And follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and of course on YouTube. Subscribe. We've got 3 podcasts now. We've got this podcast. We got Through the Eyes of the Maine Guide podcast, which if you subscribe to this one, you'll see that pop up, and those are on YouTube. And our other podcast is the Adirondack podcast, Big Woods Adirondack, and they'll be on the YouTube as well. So support our sponsors. They're what keeps things going. And we thank you for your support. Get us some more questions so we can keep things going for you. So until next time, good luck on the trail.